Sorry, I had to restart the stream, man. I was acting a little dumb. So, I don't know if you guys saw, but there's the SpaceX IPO today, which is, that's all right. I think I'm going to wait about, I don't know, 90 to 120 days. I think after, that period, we'll really get a good idea and see exactly, what SpaceX is really worth. Because I think anything in between, there and now is sort of either inflated or overvalued or undervalued. Tough to tell because see, SpaceX, the people who hold stocks are not just like employees. They had actual investors already, private investors, and these investors, work through like what's called special purpose vehicles, and these are investors from like all over the place. Okay, so it's not like these investors are like employees or anything like that. Those do exist, but it's not the same. Excuse me. So, I want to see exactly, what their take and like what amplifier they're looking for at like, return on value for the stock. And I also don't even know, if SpaceX is going to pay out dividends or anything like that. So that's pretty interesting as well. Um, it is definitely probably a good buy, but I don't know that it's, I just can't say exactly what it's worth, So for that reason, that's why I'm just not going to buy anything today. No stocks, no nothing, and you should just do your research. If you do your research, then you'll understand. Hmm. But SpaceX has created the Starship, and I think that's important to understand. The Starship, and the whole point of the Starship is, to make space exploration possible, right? But I don't know that that's going to be able to happen unless we actually get a real life space station. And that's what's important. Hey, what's up, Luke? Appreciate it, big dog. You're a nice person for listening. But this space station has got to be massive. All right. And when I say massive, I mean it's got to be bigger than the size of the moon. And, it's got to be able to have a bunch of humans. It's going to have to be able to process asteroids and extract the rare minerals out of those asteroids. It's going to have to, have facilities for basically every part of human life. And here's something, and we really got to talk about this because it's kind of crazy. Yo, what's up, Strime? Um, the part that we got to talk about is the whole procreation piece. And this is something that I don't hear anybody talking about. And, I don't know, man. I just feel like I need to bring awareness to it, and this is about creating the humans, the reproduction part, the populating part, the making babies part. And the reason I bring that up is because think about this. We're going to have a space station that, again, if we don't do it like this, it's just not going to work. If we want to go to Mars, all right, that's fine. If we want to mine asteroids, okay, that's fine. If we want to, do anything at all, like the moon just won't work. It's not big enough, man. And when you use, like the moon is a fixed size, like it can't get any bigger. Okay. And us increasing, some of the mass and some of the other stuff, that just won't work because that's what we build stuff for, so we need to build a space station that is larger than the moon. And then, we can really take on any asteroid because see, the asteroid mining is really the key to everything. And that's what a lot of people are not talking about. But our asteroid processing station, like we've got to be able to break it down. We've got to be able to, semi-process, those rare materials, the rare minerals. Hey, what's up, Skeleton Killer? We've got to process those rare chemicals and minerals and gases and everything else. No, I wish. Hey, appreciate it, man. Appreciate the subs. I'm trying, man. I'm just trying to raise awareness on some important issues and get subs at the same time. So I really appreciate that. But dude, we have to talk about this because listen, guys, it's easy for men at least to say, oh yeah, I would love to make babies with women in space. But let's break this down. Number one, we have a problem with convincing women to do that now. Yeah, that's impressive, man. Hopefully I'll get there one day, man. I'm trying. I appreciate you very much. Okay. But we have a problem with getting women to make babies here on Earth. And the issue that I'm going to talk about is that, dude, this space station has to have a populating group of people, because we're not going to be able to just shuttle people back and forth, and if we want to sort of do it the right way and prevent any sort of, incest or anything like that, we've got to have a big group of people sort of doing that now. And I don't know that anybody's talking about that, man, because once we send up the initial group of people that are going to live in this space station, hey, man, that's going to be some hard conversations. I mean, like, I'll be honest, what woman is going to say, yeah, I want to have 3 to 5 kids and I'm not going to be able to like go outside and, do the normal things that humans have known. Instead, you're going to have to, live on a space station, and I'm sure there'll be, like an indoor park, and, there'll be a garden and stuff like that. But dude, we have to figure that part out, or else none of this is going to work. Okay. What? We're just going to waste, the launches on bringing people over and over? That won't work, man. It's like, hey, once you go there, you're there. Okay. And then, hey, guess what? Once we solve that piece, that's a major piece. Okay. But then we need like a starship that's 10 times the size of the current starship. And it's important that we realize that and understand why. Well, dude, with the rare minerals and the rare chemicals and the gases, like everything that we can harvest and extract from space, we're going to need the cargo capacity to bring that back to Earth. And that's really where, the main point of doing everything that we're doing in space makes sense. Okay. It is, and I do think that we can do some exploration. However, hold on. I want to tell you guys, because I don't think people really realize how massive space is. People just don't have a concept or any idea on how large it is. Okay, so we live in what's called, a universe, but, we have bigger globes of, I don't know, universes and, asteroids and all that other stuff. Okay. And those are called verses. All right. So we can go basically to outside of our verse and we can see that there are other verses, but we can't do anything after that. And those verses were only we are seeing, these verses as they were like millions of years ago, which is crazy. Right. And so when we look at those verses, it's like, here, if this is one verse, hold on, I think I got something else right here. Maybe I do. Oh yeah, right here. If this is one verse, then there's another verse. Okay. And if this is ours, then, there's probably, I don't know, like 50 to 100 universes. I mean, like there's more, but I'm just giving you an example. There's 50 to 100 universes that are sort of scattered randomly throughout this verse. And then we live in one of those. Okay. And there's a whole lot more. And so for us to get from our tiny spot in that one universe to this whole other outer space with all the other verses, dude, it's like 10 trillion, quadrillion light years to the, fifth exponent or something. That's how many light years they would take. Right. So this is, like an impossible number. I mean, it's basically unlimited. Space is unlimited. Like there's never going to be a time where we could harvest all of the resources in space. Okay. And so we could see these, but they're different size. These verses are different sizes than our verse, and so, dude, the reason in the context that all of that matters is that what space exploration are we going to do? Because going to Mars is really cool, but going to Mars also doesn't really, change much of anything. And that's where this huge space station comes into play, man, because it gives some a place for us to, live, to make more humans, to do all of that stuff. And to do those things in outer space, not doing those things on Earth, because we do need, like, listen, we need everybody to be making babies on planet Earth. Seriously. And whatever it's, just whatever it's going to take, that's what we got to do. But in outer space, we have to have that self-sustaining population, because one day we could sort of, theoretically probably get outside of our one universe. And there probably are, other Earths out there. It's highly unlikely that it's not, but there are probably other Earths with humans or some sort of life form, but we have to get out in space and start, doing that, or else we're just going to run out of time, man. And then eventually what ends up happening is the country can't sustain itself financially. It can't defend itself for long enough. I mean, this is like 100 year, project. I'll just be straight up, and I think SpaceX is trying to work on that, man. I think they're really trying to get to the point where, we have a big enough carrying capacity in a Starship so that we can actually reap some of the benefits from asteroid mining. That's what the whole IPO is about. They're just trying to get money to further the space program, because they've run into some trouble with some of their Starships, but they haven't given up. And I think they'll pull through. But, this space station, I'm talking like, dude, this thing's going to be massive. And it's going to have everything, but we have to start building that now, and we have to get that up there. And yeah, we have to figure out what happens when we try to make babies in outer space, because I don't think we really know. I think we probably have some concepts, some theories, but I don't think we actually know, and this is something that we're going to have to breach and, figure out. But anyways, I think that's it, man. I just want to hop on here, talk about that. If you guys got any questions or comments, please leave them. I appreciate all the subs. You guys have a good day. All right, later.